Slammy, ego, slammy, ego, slammy, hey. Hit it up hard, hit him with a strike. From the national anthem to the bottom of the night. Amen. Slammy, ego, slammy, ego, slammy, ego, slammy, hey. You already know what's up. What's that? Another home run. We should know the job ain't done till we hold that trophy up. Hey.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 381 of the Talking Friars podcast and YouTube show. Ben Fadden with you here on April 10th, 2023. The Padres, they just fell to the New York Mets in the series opener. A disappointing loss, definitely. But tomorrow's another day. They still have a winning record. They're still 6-5. It's not the end of the world. But that's baseball, right? I was just saying on my post-game reaction, like the night before, they score 10 runs. They blow out the Braves, one of the best teams in the National League. And then the next night, they get 2 hits and lose to one of the better teams, at least on paper, in the National League. That's just baseball. It's a long season. There's ups and downs, and yesterday was an up, and today is one of the downs so far early in this year. So we'll talk about this Padres-Mets game. And then Robert Suarez and Joe Musgrove, there are updates on both of those guys that came out today. One, well, I guess both aren't that positive, but one is definitely more negative than the other. And I'll give my thoughts on that. Should us, Padres fans, should we be worried about these Joe Musgrove and Robert Suarez setbacks? We'll definitely talk about that. So first off here, Padres-Mets. 5-0 was the final score. Yu Darvish did not pitch as bad as his box score is going to say he did. His box score is 6 1/3, 5 earned runs allowed, with only 5 strikeouts. Darvish, he can get to double digits at times. 5 strikeouts, that doesn't seem like a lot, but his innings were pretty efficient. Most during the Bally Sports San Diego broadcast, they showed the inning by inning pitch breakdowns for Yu Darvish tonight. And a lot of them were like under 20 pitches, like 16, 17 pitches. I think one was 14 pitches. So he was being efficient. And with this questionable bullpen right now, having Darvish go into the 7th definitely helped. But the offense they just didn't hold up their end tonight. And we'll get into the offense here in a moment. But sticking with Darvish, so he works into the 7th inning. He was efficient. It was in that 7th inning where it got weird. Like, okay, McNeil had the 2-run double in the 4th. That gave the Mets the lead. But then he had 3 scoreless innings, and then the 7th came around. And I just want to run through this 7th inning because it definitely was weird. So Canna has the leadoff double. Then Guillorme has a bunt down the third baseline because Nito, I believe, was the swinging bunt. Guillorme bunted down the third baseline, and it looks like, okay, it's going to be fair. Then it hits off the lip of the grass, and when it's going slow like that, any little movement, it's like, okay, well, it hits off the lip. Now it's going to go foul. But it stayed fair, and he reaches. Now there's a runner on third base in Canna because of that single. So it's 1st and 3rd now. Escobar has the sac fly. That brings in a run. If that ball would have went foul, maybe Darvish retires Guillorme, and Canna doesn't end up on 3rd there in that spot, and a sac fly doesn't score him in that situation. Later in the inning, Tomas Nido, swinging bunt down the third baseline. This one I definitely thought was going to go foul. Hits off the lip of the grass. I forget if the first one did. I know the Nido one. Let me go watch this back. The Nido one, I'm watching it right now. That one hit off the lip of the grass. It looked like it was going to go foul. Then it hit off the lip. Then it hit off the line or hit the line. And then it hugged the line. It stayed on the line. I was joking in my head while watching this, like, yeah, maybe Buck Showalter put some sticky stuff on that third base line tonight, because that's what it felt like. And then if you go back and watch the Guillorme bunt, that one, okay, both hit the lip of the grass. That one, it hit kind of like the inner part of the chalk on the third base line and then stayed in. Where the Nito one, like, it hit part of the ball was in foul territory. That's how close it was. So some of that just did not go Yu Darvish's way there in that 7th inning. So that continued the inning there. Those two swinging bunts there. Mound visit, Tim Hill came in the game, and then he gave the double to Francisco Lindor. That made it 5-0. You know, Darvish starting that 5th or the 7th inning, excuse me, it was 2-0. And then the sac fly happened after the bunt from Guillorme. And then Hill came in, couple runs score there. So it shouldn't have been a 5-0 game, I don't think. But, the defense was pretty good tonight. They didn't make a bunch of errors or anything like that. The offense just didn't come through. I mean, Max Scherzer was on the mound for the Mets, and the first couple starts weren't his best, if you go ask Mets fans. And tonight, I don't want to say he looked like Max Scherzer. I mean, there were times for the Padres, they had runners on base. You look at the first inning, first and second, Bogarts grounds into a double play. You look at the 6th inning, first and second, Matt Carpenter strikes out. Scherzer was already out of the game in the 6th, but I'm just saying, like, there were times where the Padres had chances and they just didn't come through. Scherzer, his final line tonight, he ends up going only 5 innings. Austin Nola had one heck of an at-bat, 11-pitch at-bat to take Scherzer out after 5 innings. He struck out, but he was one of the bright spots, I think, for the Padres tonight. He had a line drive that looked like it was going into the gap, and Nimmo made that catch. So Scherzer, 5 innings tonight. He only gave up 1 hit. That was to Ha-Sung Kim after Crony lined out to center. No runs, obviously, 3 walks, 6 punch-outs. And that lowered his ERA to 4.41. So his first couple starts weren't the best. I think he gave up 3 home runs in one of the starts, so he is prone to giving up the home run. It's the regular season. It's 1 game in the regular season, so I'm not going to overreact. What I will say is, yeah, I mean, I'm glad that this offensive performance happened tonight than in game 1 of the wild card series, right? Where they hit all those home runs off of him. Tonight, they didn't really do anything, but it's a regular season game. It's 1 of 162. Still have a winning record. The Mets are a good team. It's not like it was David Peterson, like tomorrow night starter for the Mets, that they did this off of. You wish you would have been able to get some runs together and maybe you would have won that game. But, Darvish, I'm taking the positives from this game. Darvish pitched well. I guess that's kind of the main positive. Domingo Tapia, he has bounced back since struggling. He pitched, I think the 8th inning. Yeah. Pitched the 8th inning, 1 inning, didn't give up any runs, no walks, struck out 1 guy. Tim Hill continues to kind of struggle, but it feels like he's struggling because he's not pitching. He's not pitching like for matchups only, because there's only like a 6-man bullpen if you're not including Hader, because he's only going to pitch in the 9th inning when they have a lead in save situations. So it's like a 6-man bullpen. And so Hill, he has to pitch in some of these higher leverage spots when it's not just based on matchups. And that can expose him at times, because when a righty's on the mound, when a righty's up at the plate, some of those pitches go right into their sweet spot, right? So hopefully Tim Hill can bounce back, but obviously that leads into the whole bullpen situation, the Robert Suarez talk and the setback that we learned of today from Kevin Acee in his daily newsletter. And there's the Musgrove stuff. So we'll get to that. But let's go to the chat here. Some takeaways from tonight's action. Glendon asks, where are the bats? I mean, they hopefully weren't left in Atlanta. It's just one game, so I'm not going to overreact to it. They had opportunities to come through and just didn't. I says it's probably just we're going to have a hard time winning that opening game series away this year, but I still expect us to have a better away record than home again. I mean, hopefully they have the identical home and away records. That just means that they're consistently good. And I don't know if I buy we're just gonna have a hard time winning the opening game of the series away this year. Like, those are just baseball games. You just have to go win them. The offense just didn't step up tonight. Devin says, not too upset with Darvish. He looked way better than the box score showed. Got unlucky with the bunt hits and the McNeil double. Yeah, I don't know if he was unlucky with the McNeil double. I mean, McNeil hit that pretty hard, but the swinging bunt, the bunt, he got pretty unlucky there. KJ said everyone was late on fastballs tonight. What I will say about that with Scherzer, I did recognize that, the velocity is not 97, right? It was 93, 95, and he is getting older, so that's why you're seeing that. But I thought he did a pretty good job of mixing together his breaking pitches, not being predictable with the Padres at the plate. That's what it felt like watching that tonight. So you got to give props to Scherzer on that, right? Ivory says the baseball gods got Darvish tonight. LOL with those damn bunt singles. Yep. Glendon, there was sorcery on those two balls that stopped on the baseline. Yeah. I mean, I joke about it, but yeah, Buck having that sticky stuff on that third baseline. Maybe had the ground screw to, I don't know, get some sticky stuff, stick the chalk together. Devin says offense needs to wake up tomorrow. It looked like they were exhausted after blowing up the Braves. Maybe the late flight to New York may have been a factor, but regardless, they need to get back on track. Yeah, but they had the day to recover from the late flight. They're not going to use that as an excuse. The offense just didn't come through. They had 2 hits all night. It's hard to win a baseball game when you have 2 hits. Even if they were solo home runs tonight, those 2 hits wouldn't have won. Mr. Robot says, I love Joe, but his bonehead injuries are not helping this team win right now. Well, yeah, we'll get to that here in a moment. That was kind of just natural instincts, and I'm not saying that the kettlebell thing was a bonehead mistake. I mean, he was working out, and maybe he was sweating too much and it just slipped. I'm not going to go blame Joe for that. That was just a freak thing that happened. It's not like he was riding a motorcycle and hurt his wrist, right? Let's just say that. Joe's not stupid like that. All right, I'll get back to the chat, but I did want to hit on the Robert Suarez and Joe Musgrove stuff here. But first, check out Gaglione Bros' famous cheesesteaks and garlic fries on Friars Road. You can visit their website, gaglionebros.com, for their entire menu and enjoy their cheesesteaks and fries at Petco Park and Snapdragon Stadium as well. All right, so let's start with Joe Musgrove first. So, according to Kevin Acee and other reporters, Bob Melvin told reporters today, Joe Musgrove, he received a cortisone shot in his right shoulder yesterday. He could play catch tomorrow, so on Tuesday, as early as tomorrow, throw a bullpen a couple days after that, and then make a rehab start this weekend for El Paso. That would push his season debut to not April 16th, but at least to like April 20th, probably around that. Like, let's say he throws tomorrow, and then a couple days later throws a bullpen. So that would be Thursday. Let's say he starts on Saturday. Then if you're going every 5th day, then he'd be able to make his first start of the regular season on the 20th. That's if everything works out. If he throws tomorrow, if the rehab start on, let's say, the 15th, if he does start on the 15th, if that works out well, Bob Melvin did mention to the media today, like, he may have to make 2 more rehab starts and not be ready to go until when would that be? 25th would be if he starts this next or no. If he made a rehab start the 15th, the 20th, then he wouldn't come back till the 25th. I don't even know if the Padres have a game that day, but I assume so on a Tuesday. Come back the 25th. So, the timeline keeps getting pushed back. But I don't want to make this seem like, oh, Musgrove, he's not taking rehab seriously or anything like that. Like, obviously he is. I mean, the instincts kicked in. Like, the whole reason we're having this conversation here of his starts getting pushed back, it's not because his arm isn't doing well or he's just not healthy, like just coming back from the fractured toe. It's that when he was making his rehab start the other night, I think it was last Thursday, in the second inning, there was a comebacker at him, hit him. He went to go grab it, and in all-in-one motion, as he was falling to the grass, he decided to flip it to first. Terrible throw, and I guess he fell on that right shoulder. So that has delayed it. He didn't feel anything, I guess, right when it happened. A trainer came out to go check him out. He stayed in the game. I don't think he made it through 5, but he looked a little rusty. He didn't really feel anything until the day after. And then he had an MRI. I don't think it showed any damage. And so that's why his start time has been pushed back and will be delayed more. Because remember, he was originally aiming for the beginning of April, right? April 11th? So tomorrow, he was aiming for tomorrow. Instead, it's going to be Ryan Weathers. Then he was aiming for April 16th. But then the shoulder thing happened on that play the other night. So it's pushed back now. So the earliest I think we could see Musgrove pitch in the big leagues is April 20th. But maybe the Padres decide to have him have multiple rehab outings because he was at 85 pitches that previous outing, his last rehab outing, and he was rusty. So maybe they want him to build up more and not show rust and then get him back to the big league. So April 20th, the earliest, but maybe we won't see him till the 25th, maybe even after that, which it sucks, but it might also be a good thing because it keeps the Padres with a 6-man rotation, which might help, Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha long-term, get them an extra couple starts in the 6-man instead of having to start every 5th day. Because I feel like when Musgrove comes back, the rotation's probably going to be every 5th day. Darvish, he's pitching on an every 5th day schedule now. He likes that routine. And Musgrove, his rehab outing schedule, at least before this shoulder thing, was every 5th day. So that's an indicator to me, like they're going to go to a 5-man when Musgrove comes back. Or at least maybe the second start Musgrove comes back. Maybe the first time around he goes every 6th day just to ease in, and then it goes to every 5th. So maybe by May they go back to a regular 5-man rotation. That means that either Nick Martinez, I would think, or Seth Lugo, probably Martinez at this point in time, would move to the bullpen just because Lugo's giving more length for the Padres. He's pitching a little bit better. And they have a 5-man rotation. Martinez goes to the bullpen. Weathers would go to El Paso. Tapia would go to El Paso. And instead of a 7-man bullpen, it would be an 8-man bullpen. That would help the bullpen out. And you would have Nick Martinez be not just a long guy like Nabil Crismatt, but you could have him be one of those higher leverage relievers to kind of try to help fill the void for Robert Suarez, which brings me into the next topic of discussion. Should we be worried about Robert Suarez? To answer the Musgrove one, should we be worried about Joe Musgrove and this setback? I don't think so personally. According to Bob Melvin, he told the media earlier today that, quote, he's feeling much better, end quote. So Musgrove's feeling much better. So that's good news. Hopefully he throws tomorrow and we can get him back on the 20th or the 25th, whenever that is, and everything's going to be good. Doesn't seem like it's serious. They're just being precautionary there with Musgrove. With Suarez, You could say that they're being precautionary, but this is a little more worrisome for me. Kevin Acee reported in his newsletter earlier this morning, Robert Suarez's progression towards a return from elbow inflammation has been slowed after he felt something in his right arm while playing catch. So immediately, the social media reaction was like, oh, Tommy John, oh, Drew Pomerantz, another Drew Pomerantz contract. And my reaction to that is, whoa, 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 just chill out here, relax. Okay, he felt something in his arm, but there was no structural damage because I think I believe it was either AJ Caspell or another beat writer for the Padres. They wrote today that Suarez went and visited with the same doctor that he had the Tommy John surgery with in, I think, 2017. He's had TJ before. And it was revealed there, I guess, that nothing was wrong. So that's a sigh of relief there, right? We can take a deep breath now with that. So I would not be concerned to the level of, oh, another Tommy John coming. Oh, Drew Pomerantz, another one where he's just not going to be able to stay healthy. Yeah, it's a setback and it's concerning because he's going to be out longer than Musgrove will. We don't know when Suarez is going to return, but we got to think the long game here. Like, this team is going to be good enough to make the postseason. So if Suarez has to take a couple more weeks here, I'm okay with that. And when Musgrove comes back, I think Martinez is probably going to head to the bullpen. So that will make the bullpen stronger. I know there's still going to be question marks with the bullpen, but they have a good rotation, a rotation at least I believe in right now. There are multiple relievers that I do believe in the bullpen. And the offense is going to only improve because Tatis is going to come back on April 20th. We're now, 9 games away from that? And he's looking good in the minors. So I'm not going to be on like a scale of 1 to 10. I'm not going to be at 10 with the Suarez setback. Him feeling something in his arm. My concern level wouldn't even be at like a 7. It's probably at like a 5. So I'm concerned, but I'm not going to lose sleep over it. Like, yeah, it sucks. I'd obviously rather have Robert Suarez back now than whenever it will be. Maybe it's mid-May, because he hasn't resumed throwing yet. We don't know when he's going to resume throwing. And then what's it going to take? 4 weeks? How long is it going to take for him to start throwing? Because he's probably going to start at 60 feet, maybe less than that, and then build up to, I think, 120 is what the Padres have guys do before they get on a mound. Then he's going to get on a mound, and then he's going to have to go on a rehab assignment. Drew Pomerantz, by the way, he's going to go on a rehab assignment with El Paso. So who knows how long he's going to be, but maybe they just have a quick rehab assignment, just try to get all the bullets they can out of Pomerantz because they know he's going to get hurt at some point this year. Melvin did mention that a little. He didn't say he knows Pomerantz is going to get hurt, but he did admit that's a conversation the Padres are having. How long is this rehab assignment going to be for Pomerantz? Do the Padres want it to be a long rehab assignment to make sure that he's good, or a shorter one? Okay, he's healthy. Let's get him to the big leagues and get something out of him this year. That's up for debate, I guess, among the Padres front office staff. But getting back to Suarez, yeah, I'm concerned a little bit, more concerned than the Musgrove stuff. I'm not even really concerned at all with the Musgrove stuff. Yeah, when one of the Padres' best relievers feels something playing catch in his right arm, yeah, that's and he was dealing with elbow inflammation. That's what led to him getting shut down in spring training anyway. Yeah, it's concerning, but it seems like signs are that it's not going to be it's not going to be too terrible. So that's encouraging. But it's for me, it's not as much as concern. It's more like just questioning when is he going to pitch. I think he'll be here late in the year, but when is he going to pitch? And how is this bullpen going to do while he's out for a longer period of time than we probably expected? Because his last spring training game was the 12th. Then we thought he was going to return maybe beginning of April here by now, at least when he was shut down. But now, what are we looking at? Mid-May? So it just keeps getting pushed back. So that puts more pressure, continued pressure on Brent Honeywell, Luis Garcia, Steven Wilson, Tim Hill, right? And Bill Chrismat, guys that are in the bullpen. And Nick Martinez, when he moves to the bullpen, assuming that he does, it's just going to continue to put pressure on them, put pressure on the rotation to continue to give the Padres length, right? That's what it does. But I still believe in the talent that the Padres have. It's going to continue to be a roller coaster, some highs, some lows. But I think Brent Honeywell can be like this year's Steven Wilson. I do. I know the injuries are a question mark, but I believe in Brent Honeywell when he's on the mound. And I don't think Tim Hill's going to look like this consistently. Luis Garcia, I'm already seeing more encouraging signs bouncing back from that bad Arizona outing. Chris Matt, Tapia, excuse me, sorry. We got a cough. Tapia, Chris Matt, seems like they're bouncing back. They're doing all right now. So I don't think the bullpen's going to be as bad as it seemed like, the first week and a half of the season. Yeah, good point here. Pierce Johnson. I do miss Pierce Johnson. I wish we had him, but not at how much money I guess he wanted, right? What did he get from the Rockies? Let me look that up. Pierce Johnson. Because the Padres, they just decided to extend Suarez, bring back Martinez, bring in Waka. Like they wanted to make sure that the rotation had the depth. And they did that. Credit to the Padres for doing that. $5 million. Okay. I mean, I guess I probably would have paid that for Pierce Johnson. But the Padres, they decided to go cheaper with Brent Honeywell, right? And maybe that works out. And it does save the Padres some money. And they were near the luxury tax at some point this offseason. So, and they still are, right? So they just didn't want to probably pay that much for a guy that they think that they could replace, right? All right, let's get back to the chat. So, just to answer my question here for the title of this episode, should Padres fans be worried about Robert Suarez and Joe Musgrove? I don't think you should be worried about Joe Musgrove. He's going to come back. I'm not worried about that. Not losing sleep over that. I'm not losing sleep over the Suarez stuff. My concern level from 1 to 10 is probably like a 5. It's definitely not a 10. It's not a 7, not an 8, nothing like that. I'm just questioning of when is he going to pitch? I think he's going to pitch again. Where Pomerantz, it's more of a question mark. Is he going to pitch? Is Morejon going to pitch? With Suarez, it feels like he's going to pitch. It's just a setback, right? It's a disappointing setback. But he's going to be on the mound. I'm confident that he'll be on the mound at some point this year. Devin, talking about the Musgrove stuff. Musgrove did not get injured on purpose. Accidents happen at any time. Stop being negative. Musgrove's a hard worker and will keep working hard through, in, and out. Keep the faith, Friars. Yeah. Yeah, with Musgrove, like I said earlier, anyone that wants to be mad at Musgrove, like, I guess you could be mad at him for what he did to play in the rehab start, but for the kettlebell thing, he was working out and it accidentally dropped. It's not like he was riding a motorcycle. Irie says, our starting pitching, I think it is going to be deep this year when Joe comes back. It's the relief pitching we're going to need to handle at deadline or sooner than later. Yeah, and talking about the deadline, if the Padres do need to go get an upgrade, if Suarez can't pitch and they need one of those 8th inning guys, Preller can go do that. He's shown the ability to do that. He's shown the ability, I know it's not the offseason, but just in general, to go get guys on short-term 1-year deals or maybe a couple-year deals to fix the bullpen, to replace guys in the bullpen, right? Just go down the line. Brad Hand, right? Brad brought in Fernando Rodney, and the guy had like a .5 ERA, right, in 2016 before that Paddock trade. What'd I say? Brad Hand, Fernando Rodney, Mark Melanson, Trevor Rosenthal, Kirby Yates, Luis Garcia, Robert Suarez from overseas, right? Like, he keeps doing it. Josh Hader traded for him in an absolute steal, it seems like, for the Brewers. Lamette's not even on that team anymore. Esteury Ruiz is not on that team anymore. So like he's shown the ability to do it. Tim Hill traded Franchi Cordero for Tim Hill, who's had a positive impact on this Padres team. So he can go get relievers. Nabil Chrismat, they've gotten. I mean, last year he really helped this Padres team. He was one of the unsung heroes. So bringing in Seth Lugo, maybe he goes to the bullpen at some point this year. So Preller has the track record. So they will upgrade if they need to in the bullpen, especially when they're trying to go all in this year. I'm not worried right now about if the Padres will have enough in the bullpen when all things are said and done in the postseason. Devin says Carpenter was bad tonight, 4 strikeouts. Ouch. Yeah, not his night. Glennon says, how has he been doing? Maybe he's not typing. Maybe this is auto. He says, how is Nelson Cruz's bunion? I don't know what that is. He had a great night last night. And he's had a good start to his Padres tenure. I don't know what your question was, but I'll just say that. I like the platoon with Carpenter and Cruz. It's working out pretty well so far. Now both are older, so the injuries are always something to pay attention to, but they're good so far. I know it's early in the year, but they're good so far. Padre Bot asks, when is Camposano going down? Dude can't catch a fastball. He's not going down. I mean, they're not going to bring up Brett Sullivan. Campy, he's had his time at the minor league level. I think he needs more playing time at the big league level. I know Austin Nola had a good at-bat tonight, had a line drive in the gap, commands the pitching staff well, but he doesn't throw anyone out. Like, give Campy the shot. Early in the year, give him the shot. Let's see what happens. If it doesn't go well, then he can be the backup, and then you have Nola go back and catch. I'm not saying you have to bench Nola for like an entire week, but give Campy more starts than Nola for a week and see how it does. See how it plays out. Because Campy, I'm just tired of him sitting there and being on the roster, just not doing anything. It was back to, I think, last year, right? He came up for like 14 games, played, I think started that one of the Cincinnati games on the road, and then didn't get much playing time after that. And then got sent down. Just not getting the consistent shot. I'd like to see Campy, get some consistent playing time. Because he is a young catcher still. He's not making a lot of money. You don't want to waste this guy's talent, right? Because he has talent. He has the upside. He's only going to improve if you put him in these major league games consistently. Padre Bot asks, who's our backup catcher? Campy. Yeah, Campy. There's 2 catchers on the roster, Nola and Luis Camposano. Irie says, I would have took Victor Caratini over Nola even when we initially got rid of him. I was like, he's a switch hitter. He's good defensively, came through during clutch times. Yeah, but I think Nola had more years of control, and he was always the starting catcher, or at least the majority of starts. He was the starting catcher. So the Padres were always going to go with Nola. That's what it felt like. I don't know. I believed in Nola for the most part. He just hasn't performed up to the level of, that trade, obviously, that they acquired him from the Mariners. So he's been a little bit disappointing, I'd say. I'm fine with their decision to go Nola over Caratini. It was kind of like them going Nola over Alfaro. I mean, Nola's just the better overall defensive catcher, I think. And that's what the Padres need. They needed the better overall catcher, the guy pitchers are comfortable with. That's who they were going to go with. And he's not making a ton of money, has years of control. So that probably all played a part into it. SJL Stevens with the super chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. If anyone wants to support the channel as well, you can use that super chat function just like Stevens did. You can do the super thanks button during regular videos in the comments. I appreciate everyone's support. Even if you don't do super chats, like I try to get to pretty much everyone in these chats because we're all Padres fans. Some don't have the money to give, and I totally understand that. I'm not someone that's gonna beg you to do super chats, 5 times every show or have, say subscribe 5 times every show. Like if you like what I do, you're gonna subscribe, you're gonna like it, you're gonna support. If you don't, then you don't. That and that's fine. I just love this Padres community and love talking with you guys. So Steven says consistency in hitting would be helpful. Yes, there's been some up and down offensive games. I think when Tatis comes back and they can get in a groove lineup wise, because when Tatis hasn't been here, right? When a righty's on the mound, there's been like Grisham leading off. When a lefty's on the mound, they've had Bogarts leading off. There's been different lineups. When Tatis comes back, they're going to continue to have different lineups, but they're going to have a consistent leadoff guy. And it's probably going to be a consistent 1 through 4. And consistent 1 through 6, with the only exception being, the 5 guy, Cruz, Carpenter, platooning. So having consistency in the lineup, maybe that will help a little bit as well. Irie says, forget Reynolds and Ohtani. We need an emergency closer rental to back up Hader. What relievers are on contract years? We will take the best one. Yeah, but I'm not even going to look at the list of relievers right now on contract years because it's so early in the year. Even non-contenders, they're not going to trade you their reliever because they want to probably build up that stock, get more saves for someone like David Bednar with the Pirates, right? Or just, they don't want to tell the fan base, hey, don't come to the ballpark. We just traded our all-star closer already, 10 games into the season. Teams just aren't going to do that unless you give them a great package. The Padres, I don't think they're in any rush to do that. I think they're going to wait to see what Pomeranz can give. I think they're going to wait to see when Musgrove comes back. If someone goes to the bullpen, how does the bullpen look there? The Padres aren't in any rush to do anything. A 10-game, now 11-game sample size, that's nothing. That's not enough for any snap, judgment decisions. Oh, let's go get an emergency closer. No. It's too early for that. Yeah, and Kelly says, bring up Jay Groom for the long relief for Martinez in the bullpen. Yeah, Jay Groom, he's going to get some time on the mound this year for the Padres. I don't know when it's going to be. Don't know if it's going to be in the rotation or if it's going to be in the bullpen. But, yeah, I'd be very surprised if he doesn't come up at some point in the year. Season's just so long. And Groom, he did impress at times in spring training. I think the command is what they wanted him to go work on in the minors. So we'll see if he can do that consistently. And then he'll probably come up. Lizzie says, just wish Musgrove would not have dived, I don't think is the right wording there. It was just a minor rehab game. Oh, well. Weathers it is. Yeah, for tomorrow's start. Weathers against David Peterson. He is the Mets, I think, 5 starter. I don't think he'd be in the rotation if everyone was healthy. Verlander's out. But, yeah, it's going to be Weathers and Peterson tomorrow. We'll see when Musgrove throws next, when he makes his next rehab start. And then maybe that'll set us up to know better when he's going to make his season debut at the big league level. Lizzie asks, who covers Suarez' 8th inning spot? Yeah, Luis Garcia. And then when he's not available, it's probably Steven Wilson or Brent Honeywell, Tim Hill. Iron Swan says, Honeywell deal is a steal. I think it can be. Yeah, it's a steal if he stays healthy. Definitely. Because he has that strikeout stuff. He can get out of jams. I like the Honeywell move. I loved it. I think I really loved it when that deal happened. Like low risk. It's a win. It's a win. it could be a win-win deal. And so far, it is a steal of a deal so far for the Padres. CBS 121 says that Drew Pomeranz contract has been a disaster. Well, yeah, of course. I don't even want to count on him to give the Padres innings, but I just hope that he can return, because the quotes that he had to the media in spring training about how tired he was of sitting on the sideline in the dugout, not being able to contribute. He really wants to help this team, and sometimes his body just has not let him do that. And so, yeah, it just sucks to see. Yes, Kelly, we do still have Severino as a catcher in the minors, but I think the Padres only want to roll with 2 catchers right now, and Campy's gonna be on the roster, and Nola's obviously gonna be on the roster. So, there's just not gonna be room for Severino or Brett Sullivan right now, unless an injury happens. But, yeah, hopefully they give Campy some more playing time, because I think if they don't, they're just wasting him right now, just letting him sit there. All right, I'll get back to the chat. We have some San Diego sports stuff to talk about, but first,
I want to tell you about the best and easiest way to play fantasy sports. It's Underdog Fantasy. They have great pick'em games and best ball tournaments. In pickup games, just pick higher or lower on 2 to 5 players' stats, and you can win up to 20 times your money in a single night. You can go cross-team, cross-league, and even cross-sport. Best ball revolves around the draft, which is what every fan loves the most about fantasy, and it eliminates the hassle of having to manage your roster all season long, resulting in a fun and easy fantasy product. How does it work exactly? You enter a contest where you participate in a snake draft against other users. That lineup that you drafted competes against every other draft in the entire contest. The better the combined performance of your team, the more money you win. After your lineup is all played, Underdog will take the best performing players and automatically set them as your starting lineup. That's it. No waivers, no trades, no worrying about who to start or sit. After you complete your draft, your part is done. Underdog Fantasy offers best ball in a variety of ways, including daily contests, weekly contests, playoff contests, and season-long contests. You can either enter into these and compete against thousands of other entrants for huge prizes, or, if you'd like, you can enter into a private draft with friends and family to compete for a smaller prize pool. Underdog keeps it super simple with their easy-to-use website and mobile apps. Sign up now by clicking the link in the description or by using the promo code TALKINGFRIARS, and you'll double your first deposit up to $100 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit of $10 or more. So if you deposit $100, you get $100 free. If you deposit $10, you get $10 free.
kind of feel bad. Today on my pregame thoughts, my Underdog Fantasy pick was Darvish higher, 5.5 strikeouts. He ended up with 5 strikeouts tonight. So if you pick lower, you won that. If you picked higher, you just barely lost that. Man, somehow they get it right on the nose there, just like perfect higher lower total. I guess that's why they have their jobs, right? But yeah, that was disappointing. So if you're just joining, Padres lost to the Mets tonight. For me, this is kind of just a flush game. The lineup didn't do a whole lot. Carpenter struck out 4 times. Bogarts had a double play that he grounded into in the first. They got Scherzer out after 5 innings. I mean, that was good, but couldn't do anything much. 2 hits on the day. Darvish got a little unlucky there at the end of his outing, but he pitched well, and I'm taking that as the main positive from tonight, and they move on to tomorrow. Same start time, a little after 4 o'clock here Pacific time. Ryan Weathers on the mound against David Peterson. Getting back to the chat, Lizzie asks, Sullivan Bretzel played in the WBC. Yes, he did for Italy. Is he not ready yet? No, I think he's ready. He's not a major league catcher. He's not going to be on the roster when Nola and Camposano are healthy on the depth chart ahead of him. They're going with 2 catchers. They like the versatility on the bench with the Zokar or Odor, Cruz or Carpenter who can pinch hit late in games if you want them to. Like they like that. Brandon Dixon play outfield and infield. They like that over having a third catcher who probably isn't going to play anyway. So yeah, Sullivan, Severino, I think they're getting playing time in El Paso, and that's where they're going to be until probably an injury happens, if an injury happens. I don't want to say until like it's going to happen. Obviously, we don't want that to happen, but that's the only way I see them being called up. Because even if Campy struggles, like what is him going to the minors going to do? Just have him have consistent playing time again? Well, we know he can play well in the minors. We don't know if he can play really well in the majors because he hasn't had that consistent playing time yet. Irie says Manny went into tonight's game with a 308 average. Everyone is concerned about home runs. Manny lets the home runs come to him. Yeah, I'm not seeing concern about Manny anywhere, but if anyone is, of course, they're not. Yeah, I don't think they have the right opinion. Yeah, they shouldn't be concerned about Manny 11 games into the season. He's one of the best players in baseball. I think he's the best third baseman in baseball. Some will say Arenado. No, definitely not worried about Manny. Not worried about Soto. He had a really good at bat tonight. Seems like he's turning around a little bit. So yeah. Are there any hitters that we're worried about? I mean, maybe Nola a little bit, but I can't say that I'm like surprised about it. I'm not. Like you're just gonna if you get anything out of Nola, that's a cherry on top, right? I'm obviously not worried about Grish, not worried about Bogarts, not worried about Tatis when he comes back, not worried about Manny, not worried about Soto, not worried about Cruz. I mean, I guess you could say you're worried a little bit about Carpenter, but I'm not. Some fans might be, but it's early in the year. Yeah, I mean, Kim, not worried about. I'm not worried about Crony. I'm not worried about anyone offensively on this team right now. Really. All right, let's get to some San Diego sports talk here at the end. So there were a few interesting things that came out today. I'll hit on San Diego State here in a moment. But it was announced that the Gold Cup, which is an international men's tournament, I believe CONCACAF was the group that runs that. The Gold Cup will be played at Snapdragon Stadium this year. Probably a couple games at Snapdragon. The teams, like the matches, the matchups, that has not been announced. But at Snapdragon, the date when those matches will be played, that has not been announced. But the tournament runs from June 16th through July 17th. So that's right before the Women's World Cup starts in Australia. So there's going to be a lot of good soccer going on there in the summer. There's a lot of really good stadiums that are also hosting the Gold Cup alongside Snapdragon. I think where the Cowboys play, Texans, the Cardinals Stadium, Arizona Cardinals, obviously. That just shows that like Snapdragon, it is a venue that a lot of people want to go to, right? Snapdragon has had a lot of really good events since opening and in the future here, the next year or so, right? San Diego Wave, for me, Snapdragon Stadium is the San Diego Wave Stadium right now. It's not the football team stadium, it's the Wave Stadium. And it's designed like as a soccer stadium. I know San Diego State football, like that was the big main reason the stadium was built, but the Wave, it's their stadium right now. They're the better team. They're the ones that are selling out the stadium. They're the ones that are playoff contenders. So they're the ones that have Alex Morgan, Naomi Gurma, Taylor Korniak, Kaylin Sheridan. They're the ones that have stars on that team. And so they obviously host those games. They've hosted a NWSL playoff game, the Wave and the Red Stars last year, broke NWSL records. The Manchester United game against Wrexham is going to be later this year. The Gold Cup, a couple matches later this year. There's going to be concerts there, I believe. San Diego State football games, obviously. The San Diego State celebration over the weekend. There's been some good events. And I think the Cholos had a match there, right? I don't want to forget them. So, yeah, I think rugby plays there, the Legion. So they've had some good events. There was that lacrosse game, right? The Seals, the outdoor lacrosse game that was there. So it's not just a football stadium. It's a lot. It's not just a soccer stadium. It's a lot more than that. So that was one note. Another one that I wanted to talk about here for a moment was Lamont Butler. He announced today that he is going to be declaring for the NBA draft while maintaining his college eligibility. This is the same thing that Jaden Ledee did the other day. So I'm going to have the same reaction as I did with Jaden Ledee. Don't worry about this. It's a win-win situation for Lamont Butler. And for San Diego State, isn't this what you want? You want your players to be declaring for the NBA draft because that means you have a good program. You have good players in the program. And that's a good look on incoming recruits. Hey, Lamont Butler, Jaden Ledee, they're declaring for the draft. This could be you in a few years if you come to San Diego State. They just played in the Final Four, the national championship game. That could be you, right? And for the Aztecs, I don't think they should be worried about this. Like, I think Lamont's going to come back to San Diego State. I think Jaden Ledee's going to come back to San Diego State. They're just doing what everyone would do in this situation. They can maintain their college eligibility and go get scouted by pro scouts, get evaluations, and those NBA evaluators will help tell them what they need to improve on before entering the draft again next year and not having the college eligibility left. I think this coming year would be their last year. Even if it's not, they probably would declare officially, and not come back after this next season. Because Ledee, I think he's coming back. He didn't start really this year, and Butler, I think he can only improve from here on out, right? So this is just a good situation for those two guys, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was another Aztec that went to go do this. I think Keyshawn Johnson would be able to do that. It's good for the players. They can get evaluations. They can see the process before they maybe go do it for real the next year. And for State, they can say, hey, to recruits, this could be you in a few years, a couple years down the line, declaring for the draft because we produce NBA caliber players. So that's the latest news. I think Lamont's going to come back. I think Ledee's going to come back. I think anyone who declares for the draft and maintains their college eligibility, I think they will come back to San Diego State. Because I don't think any of the players will be like first round picks or anything like that. So that's some San Diego State stuff today. I think that was the main stuff to talk about around San Diego sports today. Irie says, can't wait to see a concert at Snapdragon. Yeah, I wonder how that will look. Gil says the competition at the Gold Cup leaves a lot to be desired. Caribbean and Central American teams bring zero competition to the table. It's always U.S. and Mexico. Seen that movie too many times. Okay. Well, you probably know a little bit more about the Gold Cup than I do. But I think it can only help bring more soccer events to Snapdragon. It'll put eyeballs on Snapdragon, especially if they get Mexico games or if they get the United States games. Maybe the United States will be at a bigger stadium like AT&T Stadium where the Cowboys play, where there's more seats. But I would think it would make sense for Mexico to be at Snapdragon. You know, it's close. That would make the most sense. So they should get a really good showing. I mean, I think whoever the teams are, they'll be a good showing. I mean, this town, yeah, you think of baseball, you think of the Padres, and right now you think of the Aztecs basketball, right? But this town loves its soccer too. Really does love it. I know in the media it doesn't get talked about as much as the town loves it. The city of San Diego, the county loves it. And hopefully this show can help, spread that awareness to the soccer and talk a little bit more about it at the end of shows. But yeah, whoever's showing up, it's going to be a big showing. This city does love its soccer, and it's a great spot to have it, right? All right. I think that's going to do it for tonight. Episode 381, Talking Friars. Ben Fadden signing off. I appreciate everyone for tuning in on the podcast platforms, YouTube, live or on replay. I appreciate everyone. Go Padres. Have a great rest of your night. Padres Mets continue their series tomorrow and on Wednesday.